Okay, good morning everyone. Before we start our lesson for today, uh, let us pray. Dear Lord and Father of all, thank you for today. Thank you for ways in which you provide for us all, for your protection and love. Thank you. Help us to focus our hearts and minds now in what we are about to teach. Inspire us by your Holy Spirit as we listen and write. Guide us by your eternal light as we discover more about the world around us. We ask all this in the Jesus name. Amen. Group 4, Chapter 4, Writing as a Process and as a Product. How to teach and assess writing in the second language. Learning outcomes. This unit, therefore, aims to help future pre-service teachers to first discuss the nature, process, and mechanics of writing. Second, explain the rationale behind the teaching of writing. Third, prepare writing tasks that would suit their target learners. Fourth, design learning plans in writing instruction. And the last one is to propose assessment activities that will not only develop the learner's writing skills but also motivate them to write. So, before we start our topic, let us have this quote from Abraham Lincoln. Writing, the art of communicating thoughts to the mind through the eye, is a great invention of the world, enabling us to converse with the dead, the absent, and the unborn at all distances of time and space. Okay, let me introduce myself first before we proceed to the lesson 1. I am Desiree RASONABLE, the first speaker of the group 4. Lesson 1, the nature and process of writing. What is writing? Writing is the process of using symbols, letters of the alphabet, punctuation, and spaces to communicate thoughts and ideas in a readable form. Writing is a medium of human communication that involves the representation of a language through a system of physically inscribed, mechanically transferred, or digitally represented symbols. So, okay, what is writing? Writing is also known as expressive macro skill, a productive macro skill. If there is an output, so there is a product. So writing is medium of communication that represents the encryption of signs and symbols. Actually, writing is a complex process that involves mastering almost language levels, such as the morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, and discourse. So, speaking of writing, we talk about the signs and symbols, like how we have this sign of the alphabet. For example, we all know that we already know that the letter corresponds to its sounds. So, we cannot write something unless we were able to read something. Writing is like it has a big demand on the macro skills. If you do not know vocabulary, if you do not know grammar, therefore, you will not be able to write. Now, that's why it is a very complex process. As you see, it involves mastery not only in the vocabulary, but uh, also in all language levels. So let's proceed to the purposes of teaching writing. Harmer 1998 offered four purposes of teaching writing, namely reinforcement, language development, learning style, and as a skill of its own. First, let us discuss the reinforcement. So let us define first what is reinforcement. Reinforcement involves doing something or giving something to a student that increase their likelihood or behavior to repeat the skill in the future. So This reinforcement considered as method of assessing language learners in remembering and perhaps even improving their fluency in the target language. Their learning is applied when this purpose of writing is applied. Okay. Let's proceed to the language development. Language development asserts that learning language as a process. He recognized that writing, like the other communication skills, as done in stages or procedural steps. So, in the language development, like as what I have read in the presentation, Harmer recognized that writing is done in stages or in procedural steps like the other communication skills. Writing practice helps you to think and speak in the second language. As you are able to quickly form new thoughts in the other language, the practice leads to proficiency in the language because you have developed a deeper understanding of it. So let's proceed to the third one, the learning style. Learning style, our understanding of Gardner's multiple intelligences theory would tell us that students differ in the way they learn. So, the significance of this learning style, because most people have a preferred way of learning. We all have a preferred way of learning. Some people learn best when they listen. Some people best learn when they observe every step, while others have to do it to learn. The fact that individuals need all three modalities to truly commit information to memory, which is the uh, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Writing learners is sometimes thought of a subtype of visual learner. These learners find writing or reading is the best way for them to learn. So by speaking kinesthetic is element of physically writing on paper, especially for students that may be struggling with learning, is essentially to cognitive development. The motor function involved with physically doing things, such as handwriting, is an incredibly powerful memory tool. So, the fourth one is effective writing procedures for teaching writing. We're also challenged to research beyond the context and reality of our learners' writing skills. We must equip ourselves with the different perspectives on the nature of writing and pedagogies of writing instruction. So, in these purposes of writing, it is wrong sa PPT. Ang nakalagay pala dito is writing as a skill. So, writing is a skill. When we writing process is used to teach writing. Students begin to understand writing as a form of communication. Furthermore, writing helps a student recognize that they have opinion, ideas, and thoughts that they are worth sharing with the world. So let's proceed. Okay, Graham, MacArthur, and Fitzgerald have offered four principles in writing instruction, which is reminded us that writing is essential and such we are challenged to do a better job in teaching it. We need to know what skilled writing books looks like and must have a collection of effective writing procedures for teaching writing. Four principles in writing instruction. First is the essence of writing. Essence of writing, an effective and versatile means of communication. It allows us to persuade our audience or explain to them ideas. It also offers a venue for self-expression, whether in creative or critical form of writing. So, the essence of writing, when you keep writing new words in a foreign language or in a second language, you are learning. It helps your brain to retain them, allowing you to access them later. Writing also helps you to understand how to integrate the words to form a whole sentences. Writing practice helps you to think and speak in the second language. So the second one is the need for effective writing instruction. Having pointed out the essence of writing, Graham et al. Also emphasized the need for writing instruction that is grounded on research. They stress that our instructional efforts in this area need to be informed by what is known about the factors that foster writing development and proven methods for promoting such development. In this principle, writing is a complex process encompassing cognitive, physical, social, and cultural dimensions. Writing is an integral part of learning in all disciplines requiring students to write or compose a diverse range of texts that meet the literacy demands specific to the various curriculum as discipline area. Text produced and interpreted might be printed based or multimodal, such as students need to be taught in a range of skills and meaning making codes to compose text. Our instructional efforts are guided in this area by what we are aware of the aspects that promote writing development and recognize methods for encouraging such development. Okay, the third one is knowledge of effective writing on our own knowledge and skills. I mean knowledge of effective writing. Our own knowledge and skills are limits to the things we can teach to our students. It is imperative, therefore, we equip ourselves with the content and procedural knowledge in teaching writing. So, in this principle, as a teacher or as a future educator, we must have enough knowledge in writing for us to be able to teach the students should know, like how to become an effective writer. Because if we do not have enough knowledge, what are we going to teach them? So we must assist students in becoming strategic, educated, and motivated writers who are not impeded by inefficient or incorrect transcription and sentence structure abilities. So the fourth one, effective writing procedures for teaching writing. We are also challenged to research beyond the context and reality of our learners' writing skills. We must equip ourselves with the different perspectives on the nature of writing and the pedagogies of writing instruction. Uh, this principle, there are a lot of teaching procedures for writing. So, as a future educator, we should push ourselves to transcend the context and reality of our learners' writing skill. We must be knowledgeable with the different insights or perspectives on the nature of writing and the pedagogies of writing instruction. By saying pedagogies, it is defined that method of practice teaching, especially as an academic subject or theoretical concept. And effective writing procedures for teaching writing helps students to improve quality of their work, reduce numbers of errors and omissions, and help new people perform complex tasks quickly and effectively. So let's proceed to the perspective on the nature of writing and writing instruction. Yagelski 2018 8 purports that the four ways of understanding writing. He said that writing is a powerful means of communication. Writing is a way to participation. Writing is a unique way of thinking that helps us learn, and writing is a way to understand ourselves and the world around us. Two major school of thoughts in viewing writing instruction. First is writing as a cognitive ability versus writing as a sociological phenomenon. Let us discuss first the cognitive ability. Cognitive ability means taking account both the writing ability and the linguistic proficiency of the learner. This school of thought refers to the learner's knowledge of skills of writing process, which includes, among other things, selecting a topic, generating ideas, while keeping context and audience in mind, and publishing the structure and style of presentation of writing outputs, among others. Writing is a very complex process and effortful. Learners need to have knowledge about language norms, which is spelling, grammar, and etc., genre, the reader, motor skills, and etc., while simultaneously writing a text. So the second one is sociological phenomenon. Recognizes that writing is done with a purpose, is directed as a specific audience, and is part of a broader set of literacy practices shaped by particular setting. So this is school of thought. As writing teachers, we must instill our learners that written texts do not live in isolation. They must have to be part of it, part of discourse community. By saying discourse community, describes that writing guideline or set of standards for written output. For example, people are now aware of different forms of writing, such as creative, technical, professional, business writing, and etc. So, uh, next speaker, please, Miss Rosanne.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Miss Des. The process of writing can seem like a daunting task to our students, but they can take advantage of both the process and product approaches in order to break down the writing process into manageable tasks. This time, we will learn about the product and process approach in writing. I am KARYL Resente, the last reporter for the lesson 1 in chapter number 4. 2. Writing as a product versus writing as a process. Writing as a product. It is concerned about the student's output. It is also called genre writing approach. This teaching writing pays attention to the correctness of the student's grammar or their structure. According to Dergia sa 2016, citing Terreo 2006, it defines that genre-based writing as a kind of writing which has a typical style, particular target of readers, and a specific purpose. The writing as a product or this approach is a traditional approach. Students write with the end product in mind. Their sole objective is to produce a piece of writing that are error-free and neatly presented, and it is time efficient for both students and teachers. Example: as a teacher, I will let my students excuse me, follow a model whether it is a poem or news article. This will serve as a model text for analysis. I, as a teacher, will simply determine and teach them its content, lexis, organization, and grammar. Example of an easy model text analysis. A poem. The content is about the family with 3 stanzas, and in every stanzas there are 4 lines, and rhyming is in ABAB style, like that. And the reader is children, who age 5 to 9, so lexis are not that complicated. The style is in sonnet and in lyrical form. Grammar used is in present tense form. Another for the complex modal text analysis is the news article. It is about the oil price hike in the Philippines. That is the headline and the focus of the content. The byline who is writing the article are also stated. And next, there is a lead sentence that grab and hook the readers right away. and the second sentence's introduction, and an opening quotation. Main body includes the W's and the house, and a closing quotation. This time, once we are done analyzing it, I will tell them to create or write a poem or a news article by just following or copying the model text analysis I have given. However, I am going to give a different topic. Example, a poem for friendship, and in news article, the latest value of peso in dollar. Next, writing as a process takes into account the different stages of developing writing skills. This emerged in the late 1970s as a result of the development in cognitive psychology and studies of how we write in our first language. It was a reaction against the perceived restrictions of the product approach. And according to Langan 2014, he stated 5 basic steps that were included in writing as a process. Next slide, please. First, pre-writing involves choosing the topic and the generation of ideas for writing. The examples of pre-writing activities are free writing or writing without restrictions, listing, brainstorming, and clustering. Here, assuming again that I am your teacher, I will ask my students to generate phrases, reviewing language structures, and electing ideas, or even brainstorm about the main topic in pairs, groups, or as a whole class. They can use a word web to incorporate a relevant vocabulary, generate phrases that describe the main topic. Next, organizing ideas, planning or outlining the ideas they have generated during pre-writing stage. Example, I will let my students look at a model of the type of writing they would like to do and identify the components of the structure. Next, I might scramble the components of the structure and have my students reorder them correctly. Lastly, I'll ask them to create an outline for their writing that copies the model provided. In here, students must organize their thoughts into an appropriate structure for the type of writing they are doing. Next, writing the draft. The development of the key ideas outlined in the previous stage. In this in this stage or step is rather self-explanatory. The students will now begin writing based upon their planning and outlining steps. This is parading process that can be done individually, group, or as a whole class. 4. Revising. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. 4. Revising. The writers are going to check the substance of their claims and the smooth flow of the development of their ideas. Reread their work to revise content. In revising activity, it is where the students process all the errors to create a polished version of their work. Example, removing a not so good sentence, repeating the entire body or conclusion, or even introduction and sometimes the title. Revising involves making major changes in a document's content, structure, or organization. 5. Editing prepares the writing output for final submission, polishing of grammar, mechanics, and style, revisit the writing format required by their teachers. In editing activities, feedback that will be given at the very end of the writing process is not very useful. Why? Because students want and need corrections and feedback throughout the whole writing process in order for them to be able to change directions if necessary. Example, I will let them do self-edit. This means that they critically look at their own work and identify errors. Next, peer edit. This means that they will have a partner and look at each other's work, commenting on a particular component of writing. This is especially useful when a language structure has been previously taught. Third is to conduct a class edit. And lastly is to conduct a teacher to students edit. But it is a time consuming, so it is not advisable. Next page, please. So there are also things to consider in an effective writing. There are subject, purpose, and audience. In subject, the idea that we want to talk or write about. Example, when we are going to write a poem, the common subject of poems are all about nature, love for family, friends, person, life events, and more. In news article, the common subjects are about wars, politics, education, health, and more. Purpose: inform, give facts, persuade, or entertain. Guides us in writing ideas and choosing the language to use in writing and helps us decide the length of our discussion and style of presentation. Example, again in poems. The common purpose is to express emotions, share ideas, and create imagery. In news article, the common purpose is to spread information on a wider scale. Last, the audience. Audience play a crucial role in shaping your writing style and organization. Example, age, profession, cultural background, and gender. Example again in poems, the common audience is are the children rather. Might be toddlers, 3 to 4 years old or 6 to 9 years old. And in news article, the common audiences are adults, might be young adults or oldies. So next slide please. Pritchard and Honeycutt 2017 have this to say about the process approach. Teacher must demystify or make a difficult or esoteric subject clearer and easier to understand so that students are able to write a writing good and accurate. Regardless of how skilled they become, all writers will perform just like the professional writers. So, this utilize a process adapted to their needs, develop their manuscripts for several stages of revisions, seek responses of others, edit errors at the manuscript level, realize that writing is never perfect and always open to revisions must be realized by those writer. And that is a reality when someone writes a writing. So this six will be um, realized by them and practiced by them. Next slide, please. Writing as a product or as a process has drawn debate among practitioners. And to compromise the issue, Tompkins 2008 offers a way by balancing the teaching of writing as product and as a process, or even mixing the two approaches. So which approach is better? Experts or researchers have debated this over the years, with some leaning one way and some leaning the other. As teachers, we need to be practical, and the reality is that both the approaches are valuable. Both writing as a product and writing as a process have advantages. A quote, in a writing class, students need to be taught both how to use the process to their advantage as language learners and writers, and also how to produce an acceptable product on demand. Our job as a teachers is to draw upon the advantages in our teaching. Next slide, please. The mechanics of writing. Next slide, please. Olstein 2014 lists the following mechanics of writing. Number 1. Letter recognition. It is the ability to distinguish a letter from the other letters in the alphabet, and it is a foundation in learning to read and write the language. Example, You differentiated letter S from letter U because you recognize and know that letter S is written wave or in a curved manner, and U is just a letter O that is that has an erased top. It is crucial for the kid because this is their gateway to learn reading and writing. But I guess we all have the skills to recognize every letter because we spend most of our years um, educating ourselves and learning letters. Letter B. Letter discrimination is the ability to distinguish similar looking letters like B and D or letter like T and F. So it is understandable. Letter C. Sound to letter correspondence refers to matching of the sound with the letters or symbols. Example, when I dictate the word P, E, T and let my students say it aloud, they will say pet. Now if I ask them to arrange the letters to make it say pat, they change the letter E to A and write it as a pat. Last, when I let them change a letter to make it say tap, they change the first letter P to T. We see and realize that students write a letter based on what or how they sound. Letter D. Next slide, please. Word recognition. Complex sound to letter correspondence often results in the learner's problem in word recognition, which is the ability to quickly identify and read the written word. We must all know that English words are critically spelled, though sound to letter correspondence told us to just spell the word according to how it sounds. The students should understand that letter combinations often make specific sounds like th. There are voiceless and voiced, like these and that. WH, WHR, and OUND. For example, when students see words like bound and through for the first time, they can recite and use them correctly without having to sound them out. E. Basic rules of spelling. An effective writer demonstrates fluency in spelling. But to some of our learners, this could be a tedious task, especially if they not master the first four of these mechanics. For these mechanics to be mastered, the first four mechanics must be mastered first also. So I will just continue. Aside from understanding the complex mechanics of writing, our target language, we also need to learn the writing system itself, which according to Olstein 2014 can be classified as either meaning-based or sound-based. Number 1, meaning-based system. Graphic characters represent meaning. Example is the Chinese and Japanese kanji. One graphic character is equals to one word. Unlike in English or in Filipino, one word is equals to how many sounds, like that. Next, sound-based system uses the alphabet where the symbol represents the sound, like in the English language and Filipino language. For example, the word house is not spelled in just one graphic character. It is spelled according to how it sounds. So that differs in a meaning-based system. Next, it is also crucial to know the writing system directions that affect the way we learn writing, like the Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, English, and Filipino way of writing. So in Filipino and English, the writing directions are from left to right. In Arabic, from right to left, and in Chinese or Japanese, they write in columns or in rows, but those are in their history. But now they also practice the writing directions of from left to right. So this is all for my report. I hope you understand it, and may I call on the next reporter.
Next reporter, please.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is RICHELIAU M. Robles, and I'll be the next reporter for the second topic, Lesson 2, Design and Teaching Strategies in Writing. So, next slide po, please. Move the bottom slide. Turn it. Teaching and writing requires careful planning, whether we use the product or process approach, or combination of both. Of these approaches, under here are designing or implementing a syllabus, planning and individual class sessions providing for writing and responding to the writing. So, as we know that writing is a process and product approach or probably kind of combination of both, this part will definitely help you in the process of writing. Next slide po, please. Okay. So the first part is go on. First part is a feasible scope of writing tasks. This requires us to think through by writing tasks. We must give them writing tasks that they can manage in terms of breadth and depth. So, what is a feasible scope? You all know the feasible scope is it's a capability of being done or carried out with an feasible plan. It is used for different types of writing in cases of approaches and methods. When you say breadth and depth, breadth is a learning that refers to the full span of knowledge of a subject, while depth is a learning that refers to the extent which specific topics are focused upon, amplified, and explored. When you say depth, this learning refers to the extent of the learning of the writing. When breadth refers to a full span of different types of knowledge of the specific topic. Number two, a writing task that promotes academic integrity. In this age of copy and paste, to ensure the students used and from deterring plagiarism, we should use written outputs to equip them with proper paraphrasing and summarizing skills. An example activity for these are essays and personal questions that relates to their life. Next slide po, please. Okay. Next part is the suitable scaffold for the given task. Will Fong 2015-13 said that a teacher should not assign writing without previous work on the genre. Have students write about without exposing them to reading from the genre, nor have writing to be isolated individual activity in the classroom. As a speaker, as a teacher or an educator, you cannot assign your students if they have not read in advance of the specific topic. You cannot give them a task if you did not give them a general understanding of what you were supposed to give them as a topic. Number four, a specified topic genre.
Excuse me. I-cut na lang nato ni. Wait lang, ha? Let me fix my, ano. na
Ah,
mali.
sige. Sige, Jill. Magbalik ako sa pinaka-start.
Ay, hindi. Sa number 4,
Sige,
I
sige, no
guess.
problem.
Dili nga, no? Dari ba?
Um, Opo, sa
Nag,
number 4 na, you
okay.
specified topic, general purpose. Ulit ako.
Continue na.
Okay. So, number
Oo.
4. Okay. Number 4, specified topic, genre, and purpose. We need to be clear in a genre and purpose that we want our students to write about. This is the purpose to know what is the goal for your students to create in a specific way that you need to give them as an activity. It's very understandable. Number 5, a clear rubric for evaluation. A clear rubric for evaluation is a well-defined rubric guides the learners in accomplishing their writing tasks. In this portion, it's very easy that we need a rubric for our students in order to get a specific goal in their writing, and soon this use will be a way for the students to um, enhance their skills in writing. Next page, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Next one is number 6, a reasonable set of deadlines. We also have a set of realistic deadlines and to immediate feedback on their outputs and avoid severe errors in content and organization. In these cases, you have to, as a teacher and an educator, you must prepare, you must give the students enough time to create their output when it comes to writing. This is giving them more time and ideas in order to create a better and better way of writing their essays and different types of writing tasks. The next topic, designing the lessons for writing. Writing instructions for beginners. Teaching L2. Now, what is teaching? Before we continue, what is teaching L2? What does L2 means? L2 means a person's second language, or L2. L2 means language number 2. It is a language that is not the native language or the first language, which is L1 of the seeker, but is learned later. So, writing beginners requires understanding the context of the learner. We may also consider it if and when we teach spelling and handwriting. Aside from deciding on the learning objectives, content, scope, and sequence, we must plan teaching strategies and techniques ahead of time. An example for this is our English and Filipino, English subjects when we were in high school. We had in our elementary years. English subject is our second language here in the country, not just because of the speaking skills. We must also enhance our writing skills to create better grammatical texts and sentences. Next slide, please. So the next one is engaging activities. The study of Preste 2007 revealed that effective writing classes involve motivating activities like posting students' output on the wall and making them react to their classmates' output. Writing as a skill can be developed through constant and correct practice, and learning happens best when are involved more in senses. In this way of method, children can see what their mistakes are and how can they improve better in their writing skills in creating their sentences and paragraphs. Next one is development instructions. Product approach is attempting to teach writing an early stage because it is an easy check and time efficient. However, experts from Tompkins 2008, Presley 2007, and Wilcong 2015 have strongly recommended the use of process approach even in the earliest stage in teaching. When you say the process approach, process approach, this is the approach. Wala lagi. When you say process approach, this is a process of method of thinking and applying an understanding plan of the sequence and interaction of processing in the system. Next slide, please. So the last one is the conducive environment. When you say the conducive environment, as a teacher of writing, it is best to incite students to write, providing not only the motivation but also scaffolds to write effectively. When we say scaffold, you do not think of the machinery used in buildings to elevate the workers, but when you say scaffold, is it to boost their motivation in creating their activities. This is also more to help them ensure, even in the conducive when you say conducive environment, it is not only the willing to put a place where it is quiet and children or students rather can have a proper way of writing their essays. So that is all for my topic. Next reporter, please.
Yes.
Audible ka?
Yes.
Mic test. Okay. So now let's proceed to number 2. Writing instruction for intermediate and advanced learners. So writing teachers of intermediate and advanced learners must help students understand the relevance of writing, not only influencing the target language but also in learning successful other subjects. So next page please. Knowing that writing is both a social act and a developmental cognitive task, teachers can raise the students' awareness of the different writing tasks they have to hurdle in an academic setting. Sorry for my background kasi maraming aso po. Okay? So, when we say writing, it is a social act and a developmental cognitive task. It is a social act because even we are just writing individually, or we are just the only one writing in ourselves, um, we are writing for others as well. So we use writing to share our knowledge and idea to our readers, or to the people who wants to read our writings. So next, why is it writing is a developmental cognitive task? It is because writing helps us to develop our personal and professional growth. Through writing, we are extending our ideas to reveal our creativity, enhance our vocabulary, and it challenges our cognitive system for memory and thinking. So next page, please. So, let's proceed to the importance of writing as a tool of learning. So, first, these are the important things that we should remember when we tend to write. So, according to Newell, Kokis, and Booster 2007, they asserted that the importance of writing as a tool of learning, so that teachers have to engage the learners in the writing task commonly required in other disciplines. So, first, we have note-taking. Note-taking, a skill in extracting and recording relevant information from different types of text for future use. In other words, it is a process of gathering information or important details from different sources and writing them down on paper in a way that is easy to understand and recall. It is a skill that is essential for students like us, since we are engaged in writing essays in different subjects, right? This will support our context by providing evidences and strengthen the accuracy of our idea or thoughts that we want to convey to our readers. So next, we have reporting, an ability to recount and write the events that transpired, for instance, in a laboratory, experiment, field trip, or group activity. In other words, it is the ability to recall the past events. So, in writing, we use our recalling skills, or we are being nostalgic about our experience, as we tend to share our insights about something. So reporting is under the top-down process since we are using our prior knowledge in writing context. Okay. So next, summarizing. A skill in looking for patterns across a range of events and ideas and presenting the information most concisely. So in writing, in other words, it is a process of taking information from a comparatively longer chapter, theory, article, or any form of text in writing up and creating a shorter version of it that still covers all the facts and main points of the original version. So, in summarizing, we are able to segregate the relevant and irrelevant information that can be found in a context. So, next page, please. Next page, please. Okay. Thank you. Analyzing. An ability to break down ideas, note details, and determine relationships in causality. So in analyzing, we are analyzing a text structure in order for us to understand it better. Think critically about the context and draw conclusions. Through analyzing, we emphasize here our comprehension skill in which we are trying to get the causalities or main idea and maybe help us to understand deeper the meaning or the context that the writers tend us to deliver. So, in writing, we have to identify the patterns used by the writers to organize their ideas. In organizing their ideas, and this will help us anticipate how a text will develop on idea and improve your own writing. So, next, we have journal. Journal often a means for self-expression and reflection. One of example here is the reflection paper and a diary. We are writing of daily events happens in our lives. So next, we have creative writing. So creative writing, literary writing such as short stories and poetry that provides personal and imaginative ways of exploring ideas and experiences. So, creative writing, in other words, it is an expressive way or form of literature. It requires us to use our knowledge in being creativity, imagination, and it allows us to express our ideas, emotions, and convey message to our readers. One example here is writing poetry, as it is stated in the PowerPoint presentation. So, echoing this idea of contextual and meaningful writing tasks for the learners, Wilfong 2015 narrowed these tasks into 3 writing genres that a teacher can use as a guide in organizing writing lessons. So next, please. These genres are narrative, informative, and argumentative. So when we say narrative, these are the recounts factual events or tells a fictional story. It is telling a story, right? So next we have the informative. It is all about involves factual information. When we say argumentative, we appeals to a reason or emotion. Or we are giving an argument. Okay. Next, let's proceed to the tips for motivating our learners to write and help them write effectively. So, whether the writing instruction is task or genre-based, we need to motivate our learners to write and help them write effectively. We could use the following instructional tips. So, first and foremost, we have reading and writing connection. Reading can help provide context and content for writing. To become an effective writer, we must be an active reader because reading helps us to widen our knowledge and our vocabulary, and it cultivates our vocabulary for future use in writing. So, we can encourage our learners to write effectively by providing model text to read and emulate or reading materials that they can analyze, react, or reflect on. For example, we're giving the life of Jose Rizal. Then we give them a task to read the story of life of Jose Rizal. Then after the activity, we requires them to give a reflection paper or a summary of the life of a citizen. So next, we have the strategy instruction. So strategy as defined by Graham et al. 2007 refers to the course of action for accomplishing a specific objective. This requires one to have a clear purpose or goal, the procedural knowledge in accomplishing the task, and the will to embark on the designated course of action and effort to see it through. So strategy instruction, this the teachers or the teaching students teaching students strategies in each stage of the writing process would allow learners to reflect on their writing habits and idiosyncrasies as writers to employ the processes involved in writing independently. So these are the ways on developing the ability of our students to write. So, for example, the scaffolds. Next page, please. These are methods in developing the skills of our students in writing. First and foremost, we have scaffolds like model text and writing templates help a lot in teaching students strategies in writing. So we have here as well, helpful in writing for learning includes RAF or stands for role, audience, format, topic, model of Holston and Santa. Okay. The paragraph essay. And last, CREW or stands for claim, reason, evidence, warrant for argumentative writing. The recursive pattern of the process approach helps the learners to develop not only the habit of planning and organizing, but also the ability to monitor their own writing skill, similar to metacognition skill in reading. So, next, please. We have peer or collaborative writing. Yajelski asserted that writing is a social activity because writers often have an audience in mind and other readers who respond to or assess their written outputs. So in peer collaborative writing, from the word itself, collaboration. Collaborative from the root word collaboration, in which as a teachers, we can develop this awareness of the audience readers among our students by engaging them in a peer or collaborative writing activities. Let's say, in creating a research paper, we have the lead researchers, we have the assistant researcher, and documenter. This will allow the writer to formulate an imaginative audience in their minds so that the approach of their writings will be more what do we call this? Will be more understandable. Yes, it will be more understandable for our readers to get the main idea of our writings. So, last, we have the utilization of technology support. We cannot overemphasize the value of technology in teaching writing. Our learners now are exposed to multimodal text, and they sometimes find the physical act of traditional writing difficult or tiring. So, multimodal text, these are the printed hard copies. Okay. So, during the 21st century, technology is very rampant to our society. In writing, the students claiming that writing in traditional writing, we found it difficult or tiring because nasanay na tayo sa paggamit ng computer, sa pag-type na lang and pag-print. So in using the technology, we are able to develop our writings. We use ICT skills, or we are using the softwares that will help us develop our writing skills, such as social networks. This can be an opportunity for learners to have authentic readers and write interactively. For example, in Facebook, we are writing our um, like something stories there. We are sharing status there on Facebook, right? So this will allow us to engage ourselves to other readers or other people, and that's all. I am Anthony Jackson T. Sapuyot, and may I call on the next reporter.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jonelyn SARIPA, and I am about to tackle the scaffolds in teaching writing. Miss Presenter, yung yung next slide po, please. Scaffolds in teaching writing. When we say scaffolds, the word itself in writing, this is the process of breaking down the larger writing assignments into smaller writing assignments that focuses on the skills, that the types of knowledge that students require to successfully complete the larger writing assignments. Of course, uh, the following templates and suggested strategy can be useful for engaging writing in classroom. Way back then, in our primary school, our teachers in our primary schools used to teach us in how to write letters, words, or phrases and sentences by phrasing a letters, and of course the letter recognition. Uh, um, this is very beneficial in pre-writing skills and effective way to teach writing. This can also help learners to ultimately um, help them become more familiar in writing and the rest of the alphabets. Next slide, please, po. B, the teaching, planning, and writing. We can help our learners to have a pleasant experience. They need assistance of the class on topics and let their voice visible in their writing. Of course, this is important to motivate learners in their writing skills, their writing ways or techniques. Uh, one, pre-writing activities. These help learners generate ideas. This includes free writing, questioning, clustering, and listing. When I say free writing, this is without restriction, writing without restriction. There is an example right here on the presentation. Pre-writing can, in this pre-writing, let's go back to pre-writing activities. I forgot to explain. And pre-writing activities, this can serve as an effective method to develop the writing skills of the learners by facilitating the thinking and structuring those ideas before an actual activity commences. And also, this is can help to learners to effectively develop their clear and concise reasoning, organize their writings or thoughts, and of course to precisely deliver their final written output or product. In free writing, this technique um, let the learners, the writers or authors, to write their ideas without restrictions, quickly or continuously, without even worrying the format or the style or even the grammar. writing down everything that comes from your mind as much as you can. And questioning. Questioning is similar to brainstorming and is one of the earliest ways to generate ideas for writing. This is same um, this is very simple enough. Questioning. To find an answer is to ask questions, of course, by starts from how, why, who, what, where, or when. W's, the six W's, I guess. Say, for example, teachers uh, questions us. Let us write the what is matter. Say, for example, what is matter, and you write it down in the paper. Matter. You write it down in the paper and explanations of the matter. Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass and so on. This is to generate thoughts is to write questions. Next slide, please. Clustering. This means collecting and grouping together ideas relates to a chosen topic. This is like a graphic organizer, the mind map or the concept map. We guide the learners or the writers to putting their chosen topic at the center, their main idea, the main point of their writing, and then drawing a circle for every related ideas and connecting ideas with a line, the branches of the ideas of those ideas. It is a strategy that allows learners to explore the relationship between those ideas. Next is making a list. This technique can help learners in choosing topic and narrowing the focus by relevant ideas. There is an example right here, how to write an essay, how to effectively write an essay. And there's to the other planning strategies. The rough model. The rough model by Holston and Santa. 1985 as cited in Jacobson, Johnson, and Lopp, 2011. A versatile model to template that help students produce an audience-centered or purpose-driven writing output. In rough model, rough is stands for and in R of the rough is stands for role. A is the audience. The F is format, and the T is the topic. This is a strategy to writers. For instance, we ask students to write their narrative essay or paragraph and their significant summer experiences. Uh, next 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 slide po, please. Next slide. This is the the example of the rough model. Let's say, for example, we ask students to write a narrative essay or paragraph and their significant summer experience. They can plan their writing, whereas follows this role. Role as a mature narrator. Role stands for students, writers assume the role, and the A is the audience, teachers, and uh, A is for the target audience, of course, the teachers and the classmates, and the F is for the prescribed or suitable format or genre in writing, which is the personal essay or narrative essay. And the main topic, the T is for the topic that need to be emphasized or discussed, which is the spending summer away from the family. Mitsuda. the three W's, two what and two how. This planning strategy offered by Graham and Harris, 2007, is useful for writing short stories. Um, there are some strategy right here. The PA, which is the pick, pick more ideas, organize, organize my thoughts, and write and say more. Next slide, please. Number three is the crew. This model is patterned after Tolman's model of argument, which emphasized the articulations of writer's claim or position. It is debatable and defensible statement by Wilfong 2015, the general support to claim followed by the details or pieces of evidence and concludes with a warrant to tie everything together. May I call on the next reporter, please?
Next slide daw. Okay. So good morning everyone. I will be discussing my assigned topic, which is the continuation of planning strategy. Number 4, stop and dare. This planning model by De La Paz and Graham, as cited in Graham and Harris 2007, is useful for persuasive and argumentative writing. Um, So in Stop and Dare, this strategy is a great pair designed to help students develop a strong arguments for persuasive or argumentative essay. So if you're writing an argumentative paper or persuasive paper, this could be the pair strategy for you. So what is persuasive essay? Persuasive essay is convince the reader about some point of view. Argumentative essay take a position on a controversial issue and present present evidence in favor of your position. Now I am including a planning strategy. The stop strategy is actually the planning strategy. So the reason I am including that because in some of us are might actually jump straight to drafting rather than starting with the planning because planning is too important. Now stop is planning part. It helps prepare you for their part or their strategy. So as I mentioned, stop and dare is a pair of two strategies. Stop for planning and dare for drafting. So so um the acronym or mnemonic stands for um, suspend judgment is suspending judgment develops in learner reflective writing to avoid sweeping generalization or claims that have no clear grounding. In suspend judgment, um, you need to consider each side before taking a position. Think of different ideas or brainstorm ideas for and against the topic. So the next is T. T stands for take a side. Students need to take a clear stand on an issue so that it, it can produce a unified and coherent argument. This is one way of making their voice visible in their written output. During the second step, a student will determine which side of the issue to support on the basis of which is the strongest. The student will review the stop planning sheet to assist in judging which side of the issue is the strongest. Next is next ano daw? Next slide. Dilis ay wait. Um Ang stop and there naapay stands for pero wala lang nabutang sa PPT. So I will be so um, the stop is sa ONA, organized ideas. What is this? Um, in organized ideas, choose ideas that are strong and decide how to organize them for writing. Students place them in logical order by assigning a number to each. And number 4 for P, plan more as you write. Um, in this plan, students continue to plan the persuasive paper while adding and editing the text. And next is develop a topic sentence or a thesis statement. The students will write a topic sentence stating her or his opinion, and this will be the main argument of the paper or essay. And A is add supporting ideas. The student need to elaborate her or his reasons. And R is reject arguments from the other side. In this step, students cite counter-arguments why the premise of persuasive essay or paper is sound. And E is end with conclusion. Students must cite strong conclusions summarizing writer's position. So the next is the number 5, the 5-paragraph essay. This strategy is useful in teaching journal writing or writing for learning. The templates includes the introductory paragraph, which introduces the topic and the thesis statement. The second, third, and fourth paragraph develops the key ideas articulated in the thesis statement. The fifth or concluding paragraph clinches the discussion either by summarizing or reiterating the thesis statement. In 5-paragraph essay, is a format of essay having 5 paragraphs. So it says there is 1 introductory paragraph, 3 body paragraph with support and development, and 1 concluding paragraph. So in 5-paragraph essay used to have introduction, needs to have 3 things: the hook, thesis, and 3 main ideas. In hook should have instant stories, quotes, and facts. And in thesis is, So in 3 main idea also. So the next is the body. Next slide daw. Next slide, please. Here is the sample of an 5-paragraph essay. Dili kayo maklaro. The introduction paragraph begins with a background or hook. Also contain the thesis statement. Next is these are the dili kayo maklaro. This is the charts developing paragraphs with the topic sentence that support or develop the thesis statement. Writers have to be mindful of the judge. Okay. So mao to ang sa 5-paragraph essay is it should have introduction, body, and conclusion. So the next one is number 6 is Singcain. Singcain, sometimes called a diamond poem. A Singcain is a poetic genre created by Adelaide Crapsey. The cyclic syncane forms variation has become a creative strategy for writing poems. The following formula for poetry writing. The variation 1. The first line is one word, which is the title of the poem. The second line contains two words, which are adjectives that describe the title. The third line has three words, usually gerunds, that tell the reader more about the subject of the poem or show action. The fourth line has four individual words or a four-word phrase that show emotion about the subject of the poem. And the fifth line is a one-word synonym or very similar word to the title. In sick, Sinkane poems are it's popular among children because they have just a few words in every line, making them easy and fun to remember. So what is a Sinkane poem? Sinkane is pronounced as Sinkane, is an easy-to-write poetry style as it has only 5 lines with few words in each line. The first and the last lines have only 2 syllables, whereas the middle verses have a few more words. This writing style gives a diamond shape or tree-like shape to the poem. So, this is the example. Next daw. The example of Sinkane, The Castle by William Swink. Castle, it's strong, beautiful, imposing, protecting. Watching symbolizes wealth and power. Fortress. So, like what I've said earlier, earlier in the variation 1, na ano dito ang mga steps. So, next slide. Another example here is the title of the another example is Stars. So in one the first step there is a one word title of the poem. The title there is Star, and the second is Hot Radiant. It describes the first word. So ano ba yung nag-describe sa sun, sa star? It has hot and radiant. And the third one is three other modifiers of the first word, all ending in ing. So here it is, the shining, burning, exploding. And next is it gives life to everything. So a complete sentence with 4 or more words. And the last one is sun. So the last one is sun. It describes to the title. Yeah. Next. The last one is list poems. This creative writing activity asks learners to list down an inventory of persons, places, objects, or ideas. It incites students to write a strong or funny descriptions of the things they are passionate about. In list poem, it all starts with topic and in list poem it all starts with topic and a few ideas. To do a list poem, something that you will enjoy. And here is the example. What's in the box under my bed? 8 marbles and a shoestring, a shiny bubble gum ring, 2 valuable baseball cards, some chocolate candy bars, some a letter my friend wrote, and that's all. Thank you. May I call the next reporter?
Hi, I'm back. I'm going to tackle the writing prompts. Along with the strategist, the teachers can also motivate the learners to write by giving clear writing prompts. A prompt is anything that moves the students to write. Say, for example, it can be incomplete statement as a story starter like, I never thought I'd survive, or questions like, what are the benefits of urban living? Urban living. Or thought provoking triggers like image, quotes, or songs. When we say writing prompt, it consists of 1 to 3 sentences raising an issue or asking a questions that you will have to respond to. You have to respond to in an essay. Um, this short sentence or phrase is triggers the ideas of writing. And Will from 2015 offered two types of writing prompts, which is the infinite, which can be answered multiple ways, and the finite, which requires direct or straightforward response. May I call on the next reporter, which is Mr. Tuan. It's your turn po.
Good day, everyone. May I call Miss Resonable to slide the presenting the PPTs. So again, good day, everyone. I am REYMARK and the lesson 3 reporters, which is the assessment in teaching. So without further ado, let me introduce to you my co-reporters, which is Miss Tomon, Miss Tanyon, and Mr. Tangkong. So again, next slide, please. So assessment in teaching writings. So assessment in teaching writing is a writing assessment can be used for a variety of purposes, both inside the classroom or and outside the classroom, supporting student learning, assigning a grade, placing student appropriate courses, allowing them to exit a course or sequence of courses, certifying proficiency and evaluating programs. Back to the ano po, the slide po. So yes, so what is the best way to assess writing? So the student writing can be evaluated on the five product factors, which include fluent content, conversation, syntax, and vocabulary. So writing samples also should be assessed across a variety of purposes of writing to give a complete picture of a student writing performance across different text structures or genre. So how can students improve their writing skills? So as a future educator, regularly we should give them a brief writing exercises in our classes. So to vary the pace of a lecture courses, to ask students to write a few minutes during breaks, lectures in class writing outline, and exams with an open-minded question will be give students to students the practice they need to improve their writing skills. So again, when we assess our student, in order for them to learn or to improve or to enhance their writing skills, we as we as a future educator, we must give them, like for example, an open-minded question that could on they could answer by through written po. So yes. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. So yes, assessment is essential in teaching learning process because it provides evidence of learning and informs the teacher on the course content that needs reinforcement or reteaching. So according to Tomskin 2008, when we assess writing, we focus not only to the outputs but also on the writers. So we cannot deny the fact that without writers, we cannot create an output, right? So as a teacher isn't the only one who can assess writings. Students could also assess their own writing by working in a pairs or a small groups. So student can meet and conference about the piece, or each student can bring a piece to exchange and have reviewed. As with any assessment, the purpose should be the procedure. So why is assessment as an important part of teaching and learning process? So assessment should integrate grading, learning, and motivation for your student. Well-designed assessment methods provide valuable information about the student learning. So, next slide, I know. So, assessment and teaching writing of the writing. So, we need to review our own understanding of writing as a product and as a process, formative versus summative evaluation, and assessment versus teaching. So, next slide, please. So, letter A, the product versus process. So, a valid assessment of writing according to Calfee and Miller 2007 taps both products and process. We need to nounce a writer who demonstrates linguistic fluency but lacks the depth in discussing the meat of the topic from one who has a good grasp of the topic subject but commits some flaws in syntax and structure. So the writing process is something that no one people do the same way. There is no right way or wrong way to write. It can be a very messy and fluid process, and the following is only representation of commonly used steps. So in a process, we have five steps of process. First is the pre-writing. So in a pre-writing, we should think and decide. So according to think and decide, we should make sure our own understanding that we should give some assignment to our student. So number two is research if needed. So search. List places where you can find some information, and step three is drafting, right? So in this drafting, write sentences and paragraph even if they are not perfect. So yes, in writing, we could take down notes, and in order for us to write the key points. So step 4 is revising, make it better. So read what you have written again. So, and step 5 is editing and proofreading. Make it correct. Be sure all sentences are complete. So, correct spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. So, in the step 5, they are also focusing the change words that they are not used correctly or unclear. Also, make sure that we are using the appropriate style of formatting. So, what is the important between product and process? So, the important between product and process is the process is a base of every product. Without process, no any product can be built. So, with that reason, it shows that process plays a major role in getting a good product. So, product and process both are equally important. If there is any error find in processing, then it cannot get the right product. So, next slide please. Letter B pa po tayo. Okay, formative assessment and summative evaluation. So, formative evaluation monitors student progress and it is often informal and qualitative. The summative evaluation is often a challenge for a teacher who handle heter- heterogeneous So formative assessment are quizzes and tests that evaluate how someone has learned throughout the course, while summative assessment are quizzes and tests that evaluate how much someone has learned throughout the course. So the example of formative evaluation is that the clicker question, the low strike stake group work, the weekly quizzes, and the 1 minute reflection writing assessment. Then, while the summative evaluation is a evaluation example is we have the standardized test, the final product, the final aces, and final presentation. So, why formative assessment are useful in writing class? So, because we all know that the writing is typically an individual undertaking, formative assessment can be particularly helpful. So, one reason is that formative writing assessment often allows student freedom and creativity. So, the formative evaluation it can allow student freedom and creativity, which in turn allow teachers to analyze individual student strengths and weaknesses. So, with this um with this activity, we as a future educator, we are allowing our student to have a freedom and creativity for us and enable for us as a future teacher to test their strength and weaknesses. So again, in addition to the example of formative evaluation is like the draw a concept map in a class to represent their understanding of a topic, submit 1 or 2 sentences identifying the main point of a lecture, turn in a research proposal or early feedback. So what are the some example of summative in addition? So in addition of summative evaluation, the example of this is the end of term or midterm exam, cumulative work over an extended period such as a final project or creative portfolio, and out of unit or chapter tests, standardized tests that demonstrate school accountability are used for pupil administration. So letter C po, next slide please. So assessment versus testing. So assessment is more favorable than testing because it takes into account the text of the learners and find ways of helping them forward. While testing is associated with the traditional like the multiple choice type of gauging the learner level competencies. So assessment and testing considerably differ from each other. While testing is a formal and often standardized, assessment is based on the collection of information about what students know and what they are able to do. In, in other words, students are given the exact procedure for administering and scoring in testing. What is the example of assessment? So the example of assessment is like, for example, the research papers, the exam, the oral presentation, and the individual creative or performance project can be and have been assessed at the course level in some cases, even the purpose of department or program level assessment. So that concludes to my topic. May I call the next reporters, please?
So, hello everyone. My name is KRIZEL Taman, and for the continuation of lesson 3, my topic is all about, next please. My topic is all about on how to assess writing. Next slide. Next pa. Okay, sa may assessment. Balik. Isa pa. Yan. Okay, how to assess writing. So, if you were a teacher, how you will assess writing? So, basically, we assess writing in terms in the spelling, organizing, and the the body of it. But and and writing is a process of recursive because it involves four distinct steps, which is the pre-writing, drafting, revising, and editing. So it is recursive in a way that when we write, it doesn't mean that we will not recheck, revise, or draft our writings. Commonly, we really check our writings if there's any errors or miscorrect that leads the writing inaccurate. So an assessment is best done to every stage of the process because it evaluates the learner's knowledge, what they learn, what they know, and their ability. It is all about the development of a student. So teacher should but before we assess, teacher should monitor his or her student performance and give feedback before the teacher give their assessment grade. So according to Clark, according to Clark, feedback is a way that learners will know or mastered depending on what the teacher note on the output. So when the teacher put some comments or mark on the written work, it should be positive, encouraging, and indicative of a future step so that the students will have the courage to do more and help the students to excel. So we have here the types of feedback that we can offer to our students writers. First is the written comments, individual conference, and record feedback. Next slide. So in letter A, written comments, it is a use of correcting on the spot error of the learners. No, it is most common use where the teachers write their corrections either on the text using symbols for editing or indicate the comments on margins of the students' papers. So in these written comments, it check the punctuations, grammar, the spelling, and etc. So the teacher must write his or her comments or some correction or his feedback in a written way. It uses symbols to indicate the comment. So letter B, individual conference. It is useful for processing writing where teachers have to assist student writers in every stage of the writing process. So in individual conference, it is a type of feedback the teacher need to assess the students on their written works. Or in every stage of writing, it focuses on the ability of the students to comply the given task. Since it is a individual conference, it is direct to the future writers, no, or the student writers. So it is important because this feedback help the students to improve learners' confidence, being motivated, and since it is individual conference, it is a students responsible to take down notes what the teacher commented about. Next is the record feedback. So the record feedback is a alternative conferencing, especially if the class is big and individual conferencing that would not be viable. The teacher check the outputs and record the feedback for the students to listen and follow. So this record feedback is will not work if the technology is not working or unavailable because record feedback use technology for in order for the teacher to record his or her comment, no. So teacher will give feedback in a way that teacher will record his or her comment so that the students will listen and follow. Next slide. So according to Tomsky in 2008, there are four strategies in assessment. It includes observation, collections of writing samples, keeping records or anecdotal records. Lastly is the writing checklist. These strategies identify the weakness, unique learning needs, and track the progress of the learners. So first is the observation. Next. So, observation used in monitoring the learner's writing habits, problem in executing process, interactions with peers during collaborative or peers with writing activities. So, in observation, it gives the opportunity to monitor and assess student. Seeing the behavior, the actions of the learners can help the teacher understand the situation that being evaluated. And also, in observation, you will know what the weakness of the learners, what the problems of writing habits, and the way he interact with their co-students. Next is the collecting of writing samples. So the collecting of writing samples can be done by teachers or the students themselves. Posting writing exemplars on the wall is affirming for the learners. However, it would be the best if the learners themselves collected their written outputs in the portfolio, because all of us experience this kind of collecting our written outputs now in our elementary days, that all of us collect our written works and put it on our portfolio. So teacher will give output and the students will collect or preserve the output in a portfolio. They keep the worst and as well as the best written output. So in this collecting of written samples, student can see and compare the outputs that being collected and preserved. And also it can help the students to evaluate their own works and improve. So the learners can reflect their own development as a writer. Next is the anecdotal or are keeping or anecdotal records. So note down the teacher's comments on what they have observed or read from the students' output as evidence of the learning. So the students will wrote down what the teachers commented on their outputs, because by that the teacher will know and enhance more the weaknesses they have. And also if the teachers note about a positive feedback, then the students will record it on the notes. All of us all of us experience it, that when the teacher is when the teacher give us some that when the teacher give us some nice feedback, then we are able to preserve it, right? So in that way, when the teacher will note about a positive feedback, the students will record it, and the learners, it is possible that the learners is motivated to improve more. So lastly is the checklist. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Checklist for the students and teacher to assess if the outputs have responded to the given prompts or defined objectives. So in the checklist, teacher will give some criteria to check the skills or development or progress of the student. No, checklist can use to make sure that all the potential categories are considered. The teacher become a evaluator there, because the teacher will make some checklists if all of the activities are being presented on the class. So the teacher become evaluator, that the teacher and the students will make sure that these activities are completed orderly and organized. So next is, in the context of the Philippine classroom, they need to employ the strategies that could lighten the arduous task of assessing writing. So in this part, um, in the Philippines classroom, many teachers has many classes that being handled. Then in one classroom, there are different intellectual capacity. Some of it cannot understand well, some of it can a passive learner and active learner. So they have some strategies on how they can handle this kind of situation. So focus on the specific aspect of competency. According to Harmer 1998, this strategy that adheres to the principles of less is more requires the teacher to orient the student on the target competencies that the writing programs or activity aims to achieve. So in this part, it let the student focus only on what are being asked or assigned. No, less is more. No, it is we experience it because some of our teacher say that we just need to write or to recite the important details. No, so less is more in a way that when the um that we are direct to the point, we are able to direct to the point, to the idea of our writing. So teacher and students will agree only in a specific example, in a specific. So example, the teacher will only focus on the vocabulary, spelling, and or mechanics. So that is it is an activity that focus only what you are going to aim or to achieve. So in this part, the teacher and the student will agree only on what is the specific needs of the learners. Next slide. Next is agree on the list of writing symbols. So as a teacher focus on the specific aspect competency, they also can tell the student the codes used in correcting the errors. So teacher and students will deals to each other to know the written symbols. These written symbols used by the teacher for correcting the errors, and it has a 10 codes that very useful for the teacher and the student to understand to each other. So we have here first is the SP, which is the spelling error when the teacher noticed that your spelling is not that right, then the teacher will write SP. Then an WO when error in words order. P is the punctuation order or a problem. T is tense for tense of the verb. WW or the double W is the wrong word when the teacher has noticed or the teacher notice everything that you have a or you are in a wrong grammar writing. Then next is wait next is the quotation mark, which is the missing words. No, the teacher will wrote or put a quotation marks if they see that you have a missing words. Then bracket or the square bracket if you have a incorrect words. WF when we have error in words forum. Then the next is the wavy one when you have errors in combining two words into one. Then slash when you have signals for run on a sentence. So these codes help the students to improve more because and also the teachers to easily put some feedback or comments about the students. No, and these codes help the students to identify which of the writings are error, which of the writings are incorrect. And that's all of my topic. And let's proceed to the next reporter, please.
Next slide, please. Good evening, everyone. As you can see in the screen, there are some examples of proofreading marks. So why is it important in writing? Proofreading marks are useful to identify mistakes and to state the needed. Proofreading marks are important and useful to identify mistakes and to state the needed correction in our written output. As you can see there in the screen, uh, there are some mark and there are some marks and on how to use it. There are delete, insert something, close up space, delete and close the gap, add space, transpose, spell it out, make uppercase, make lowercase, insert a comma, insert a period, insert an apostrophe, insert quotation mark, and new paragraph. Next slide, please. Next slide. There's peer correction and feedbacking is important. This strategy is not only efficient but promotive as well as self-regulation in writing. When we do peer feedbacking or self-feedbacking, it helps the writer to know where to improve and when to enhance the text that they created. And aside from that, peer feedbacking can help to lighten the teacher's load in checking outputs. And the second one is utilize technology. So in today's generation, there are so many useful in the websites that has already equipped with editing features such as that can help us to polish the text in terms of grammar, structure. These are some useful softwares that can help us to polish text that can be found in websites are Grammarly, Cambridge, and Turnitin. Next slide, please. So when to assess writing? Writing assessment is ideally paired with instruction. So teacher do not stop written outputs. So timely feedback is important and meaningful not only for teachers but also for learners. Timely feedbacking allows the learners to reflect on their mistake and to know what needs to be and to know the state that needed to be corrected in their written output. Next slide. Next slide. Next part. How to grade written outputs. Grading students' output depends on the type of assessment that is given to them by their teachers. A rubric grades can be taken from actual scores they get from the test. However, if the assessment is intended to monitor student progress in learning, the writing process or responding to a writing task, there that use the teacher to use the rubrics to evaluate the learner performance. So the following are the essential criteria for evaluating written outputs. Next, next, please. Criteria, criteria for evaluating written output. So first, the idea. It refers to the substance or the student's knowledge to the given topic to the student. Organization is the student's logical organization and use of the appropriate presentation pattern. And the next one is the voice, means that even the students use references or research something, they still manage to surface their point of view or personal view as a writer. And then the sentence fluency is the writer's competence in observing lexical and scientific structures. The next one is the convention. It refers to the learner's mastery of grammar, spelling, and mechanics. And the next one is presentation. It refers to the overall styles of the writing. And that's all. I'd like to give the floor to Tuan to continue the discussion.
So next slide, please. So that is not my that is not my part. So my part is in rubrics in evaluating the research output of the student. So let's skip that one because that is not my part. That is a part of Mr. Tangkong. Next slide, please. Fast forward to the rubrics in evaluating the research output of the student. Okay. Rubrics in evaluating the research output of the student. So, it shows on the screen that 5 is the item is excellently evident in the whole proper. 4, the item is evident but is not consistent in all the chapters of the paper. 3, there is about 60% compliance of the item. 2 is there is about 30% compliance of the items. 1 is there is an attempt to comply with the items but it seriously flawed. So to explain this generalized, so the importance of rubrics in students' output and performance is that the rubrics are great of students. They let student or we let student know that what is expected of them. Okay, again, rubrics are great for student. Why? Because we as a future educator, we allow our student to know what is expected of them and demystify grades by clearly stating in age appropriate vocabulary and the expectation for a project. So how could the rubrics help in assessment of learners' output? So the rubrics can help clarify your expectation and will show student how to meet them, making student accountable for their performance in an easy to follow format. So the feedback that students receive through a grading rubrics can help them improve their performance on revised or subsequent work. So it is helpful to use a rubric in checking a student learning's output. Why? Because again, rubrics, okay, when we use correctly, have a number of benefits. They have been shown to help students become more aware of their learning process and progress, improve student performance, and help instructors quickly and consistently assess assignment from student to student. So what is the importance of having a rubrics in an output? So why it is important? So rubrics help student parents and teachers identify what quality works is. Student can judge their own works and accept more responsibility of the final projects. So a product rather. Rubrics help the teachers to easily explain to the student why they got the grade that they receive. So using the rubrics, we can easily assess the outputs of our students in appropriate way. So that's conclude to my report. So thank you for listening. So by the way, I am Reymar Kamtuan again.
Okay, that's our reporting group for chapter 4. Okay. I am Desiree Resonable and
I am
I am
Richelieu
KRIZEL
and Robles.
Toman
Ay,
and
ito lang.
excuse me, i-ano na lang Zaid.
Okay, to formally introduce the reporters. So first, I am Raymer Tuan, followed by Maris Tanyon, followed by Anthony Jackson Sapuyot, Karen SINGCALA, Desiree Resonable, Junailin SARIPA, and KRIZEL TOMON, RICHELIAU Robles, and last but not the least is Mr. TANGKONG. Sorry, but he is not around. Okay. Thank you for listening, guys. Hope that you all are have learned.
Okay, that's all for
God
today.
bless.
I hope you learned something. Thank you.